Welcome to Future Ready Live, where we talk about topics that will help CPAs, CGMAs, finance and accounting pros deal with change and transformation. I'm your host, Tom Hood, the EVP for Business Engagement and Growth at the AICPA SEMA, the largest association of professional accountants, CPAs and CGMAs in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of finance and making the shift to value partner, something that we've been talking a lot about. So with me is Jeremiah Ashukian, CPA and CMA from Canada. He's the Vice President of Finance and the CFO of Mars Wrigley, North America. Jeremiah, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody, and hello, Tom. Thanks for having me. It's great to be with you today.
It's awesome to have you here. So you are now part of our Future of Finance Leadership Advisory Group, helping us to elevate and accelerate the transformation of our profession. And I want you to talk a little bit about your transformation journey at Mars Wrigley. Like, when did you start and what were some of the big things that you've been working on?
Yeah, I mean, we've been on a journey, and I think that journey started about 4 years ago. We actually started testing different models to remove and automate transactional or routine work, more on the supply side of our business, and looking at how we might drive more efficiency across the function in general. More importantly, I think at the end of the day, we wanted to reorient our resources to be more forward-looking and focused on creating value versus just reporting the news. What I would say is at the same time, there was a lot of work happening at the Mars Inc. level to drive a similar transformation globally, so we were able to tap into that. But maybe before I jump in and talk about some of the goals and objectives, I'll start with maybe why we needed to change. And there was really kind of 3 or 4 underlying drivers for us, at least at Mars Wrigley, North America. The first, we were too slow at the end of the day. We needed to drive speed and agility at scale, especially in the digital area that we're operating in today. We were too efficient. We needed to address legacy inefficiencies in our operating model, in our systems, and in our data. To be honest, we needed to drive greater connection to our purpose. And I think we play a huge role in that within finance. And this is all about embedding a holistic model of value creation in line with our purpose, which includes elements of ESG, just given the important increased focus in this space. And unfortunately, we were just too expensive. We were just uncompetitive when it came from a cost perspective relative to our peers. So we decided to change. And really what we decided to change was really kind of 3 buckets, I would say. The first, we really wanted to act as a catalyst to transform the business and drive performance. This is really about moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach to KPIs, where everyone's measured by the same metrics, to tailored KPIs to avoid duplication of decisions, and really ensure decisions are made at the right place and right pace in the organization. I'd also include in this kind of space just moving away from annual and quarterly discussions to thinking longer term with the introduction of 3-year value creation plans and those types of things. Secondly, we felt like we needed to revamp how we business partner across the organization. Just given the transformation that's happening in digital and all around us, we focused on increasing our capabilities and skills in both, I would call it digital IQ and holistic value creation. We really started to leverage standardized digital tools and embracing predictive analytics to provide more foresight and scenario-based insights as a function. So we were focused on making the news versus reporting the news. And, to be quite honest, we were implementing an organization based on strategic resource allocation. So really focusing around the highest areas of value creation or the biggest risks versus a kind of peanut butter approach to support where every brand or every channel or every factory gets the same level of resource and focus. So, so kind of a huge kind of transition we were making. I would say alongside of that was really empowering users to gain their own insights and really democratizing data rather than having to rely on finance to provide reports and information. So.
All right, so you just pretty much checked off everything we've identified in Future of Finance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, are you done, or where are you in that journey?
We are in the messy middle. So, how it's going, I think we're making great progress. I would say it's never easy when you're implementing change, and we're changing a lot of things at one time. But we are just starting to finish and come out of some of the heavier structural adjustments that we've made. And we're now starting to lift our heads up and take stock on what's working, what gives us energy and excitement in our new ways of working, a new operating model. And to be quite honest, where we need to kind of keep a close eye on and potentially refocus to ensure we can live into our desired end state, which ultimately at the end of the day is one that is more digital centric, more forward looking, and to be quite honest, again, focused on value creation versus just reporting the news. So we're in the messy middle now, but it's going well for sure.
I love that. And the whole focus on value creation, being a value partner to the business, it's a big shift in finance and accounting, right? We're going from that cost mindset, reporting, as you said, the history, the news from yesterday, and saying, what do we do to really shape the organization from a value standpoint? I love that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how you shaped the mindset of your people in that journey, because so we did a session with you and the group, right? We called it Mise en place, setting the table for the future. And that was before I knew you were Canadian, but that would certainly fit, right, from the French perspective. But,
yeah.
So when we did that, you had some highlights from your team. We polled your group. There's a bunch of polls and interactive. What did you take away, or what did your group take away from that session relative to your journey?
Yeah, it was a great session. So, I just wanted to kind of thank you again, Tom, for being our special guest. I think it was Valentine's Day, and providing some much needed external perspective to our team. One of the areas that I know my leadership team is focused on is ensuring that we're looking more outwardly for inspiration in this space. And I thought you did a great job at bringing that view in. So thank you so much for that. I think what I would call out, and to your point, some of the survey and results, some themes or highlights of what the team took away. The session, to be quite honest, very much helped reinforce the case for change. It was just great to hear that other companies are wrestling with the exact same issues and exact same topics that we are at Mars. The second highlight, I think, was a big shift in capability required to drive the business in the future. And to be quite honest, I think the consensus was it feels a bit overwhelming, for our associates as well. So, how do we ensure that there's a roadmap and we're clear and have visible steps to make progress against? The third area that was an insight was those capabilities are not just functional in nature. I think the team model that you guys have shared is incredible in terms of the way it articulates where we need to shift. So, in fact, many of the softer skills like leadership, sense making, collaboration, and being able to communicate with impact are critically important, if not even more important than some of the kind of traditional kind of finance skills that we used to have.
Yeah.
And I think, lastly for me, it also reinforced that there is so much in this for our associates, not just for the business. We're building a toolkit that is relevant for a career in finance at Mars or externally, to be quite honest, if they choose to leave. We hope they don't. We believe we're a great company. But overall, I think it was just a great session. And thanks again for leading that discussion for us.
Well, it's a pleasure. And, these types of things help us orient where we're trying to get more resources to support your growing organizations and how you're doing the transformation. So it'll be great at our next kind of future finance meeting. And then we're looking forward to our big summit in December again, where we'll bring everyone in. But the group seems to be expanding. Everyone wants to be. It feels like we're at this like tipping point where a lot of the companies your size and even much bigger are all in a very similar state change. And so this is stuff that seems to be really, really relevant. Now let's kind of pivot over to the mindset piece. So we had research pre-pandemic that talked about the importance of mindset. We call it future view. And we even had a little poll in there. And I remember telling you that I was very impressed with your team's score, because this is across a lot of your finance associates, right?
Yes.
It was pretty much your grassroots plus your leadership. And the question is, what's your future view on a scale 1 to 10? And I'll cut to the quick part of it, which is in the basic from 4 to 6 is where people are beginning to transform based on what they know is possible today, but starting to move to where they might think what's possible in the future. Like the Wayne Gretzky quote is skating to where the puck is going. And you guys were right on that threshold. And the highest score we had seen since we started doing that with finance and accounting teams, like all over the place at our conferences, et cetera. You were a 608 out of 10. And I just want, so, and the highest score before that was like a 5.7.
Wow.
So you guys rocked it. What do you think is your formula for success? How did you shape the mindset of your people going into this transformation journey, and what can others maybe learn from that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't realize we were that high. And you're right, it was the entire function. So a lot of people were impacted in many different ways by this and going through their own change curves. I probably kind of build off the last point from the previous question that I made. I fundamentally believe that it always starts with what's in it for your people. At the end of the day, the benefit to them, what's in it for me. It needs to be super clear if you want to affect lasting change and really kind of get people to move. As a leadership team, we spent a lot of time on this, and as it really came down to for us, ensuring that we all are, including, to be quite honest, me and my leadership team, remain relevant for future generations by building the skills, capabilities, and tools. And we walk the talk by spending a disproportionate amount of time on upskilling our talent in those key kind of competencies that I think, you saw a bit of that in our development day back in February. So, I really think that really being clear for what's in it for our associates, and this concept of remaining relevant, not only at Mars, just to work here, but if you decide to go anywhere else, it was really kind of supporting the case for change and really kind of pushing people to try different things. So.
So the secret of upskilling and relevance is a really, really good point, because all the articles and stuff, it still happens, but it's a few years ago. It was all about robots are taking over the profession, the finance and accounting folks will all be automated, right? All that stuff. And for you to say it's not just that, you're going to be able to do your job that you were really trained for, which is to use the accounting and finance skills to make the business better, right? Not just move numbers around and make sure they're right. We still have to make sure they're right, but hopefully machines will take a bigger and bigger role there. So I love the fact that you emphasize that point. We're here to help make you all more relevant, which means we're going to all have a future that's even more successful, whether it's with Mars Wrigley, which you hope it is, or somewhere else, but they're all going to be upskilled. And that's kind of a good point to be making, I think.
Yeah, no, we found that worked for our team. So
kudos on that. All right, so the next one is the conference that we couldn't get you to, but we are still speaking. We're going to run a panel with a couple other CFOs, but it's the CFO Leadership Council Conference in Boston, May 19 to 20. We'll put something in the chat in this while we're going live. When we talk about the idea of RONI, we like to say, we always talk about ROI in our profession. What's the return on investment? What's the risk of not investing in your talent? And I want you to think about so what's that mean to you and the Mars Wrigley transformation?
Yeah, no, I mean, the risk of not investing in our talent. I mean, unfortunately, this is probably not going to be earth shattering or enlightening. It's actually kind of quite simple when I think about it, right? From a business perspective, I believe, we will struggle to deliver our objectives. At the end of the day, finance plays such a critical role in unlocking value creation, and it's being created in many different ways. And so we need to adapt as a function, which includes kind of upskilling. I think in addition to that, the cost of hiring new talent and onboarding them into an organization is way higher than the cost of upskilling our current team. So we're, to be quite honest, much better off developing and investing in our own. And I think more importantly, as I think about the function in general, we'll eventually lose the space, influence, and voice we have in the organization to provide direction and drive the business. I don't know about you, but I mean, I love having the seat at the table and being the one that people turn to for guidance. And I think that's at risk if we don't kind of modernize kind of what we're doing. So.
Yeah, it's funny. We had our summit in Nashville last December, and that was there was an urgency by most of the group that this idea of irrelevance and the urgency of getting that seat at the table, keeping the seat at the table, and adding more value was really what everyone kind of gelled around, right? That was a big common theme. So it's great to hear you, no surprise, talking about that, given the scores and the feedback from working with your team. So let's kind of get to the wrap up here. I just want to say, what's the big learnings for you leading this type of journey, a couple years in, and about, like you said, maybe in the messy middle, a couple more years to go, at least for phase one, right? We also talk about it's really never going to be done, is it?
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's going to keep renewing based on new technologies and all the other stuff that's going on. But given that, just a couple of the key learnings that you could share with our audience.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right, Tom. Like this is one where we talk to our associates about is like, well, we won't stop changing and evolving. It's critical, and it's important we continue to do that. But when I reflect on this transformation or this change or even other changes that I've kind of driven in the past, it really comes down to 3 or 4 things. I think first off, every transformation is human change at its core. So focusing on the people strategies, I would argue, probably more important than some of the process and tool changes if you want to affect lasting change. As a result, I mean, for me, I would encourage those going through similar transformations to really think about creating a unified strategy that kind of integrates not only capability shifts, but also mindsets, behaviors, and the culture you want on the other side. Like the next thing for me, which this is, again, no surprise, it takes a village. So I think leading co-creatively and really empowering your people to lead the change with you is not only critical to its success, but also it'll stretch and develop and help unleash their potential in the process, which is win-win. I think the third point, it takes time and consistency. It's tough nowadays. We tend to shift to the next shiny object rather quickly. We get bored with things. But to really affect kind of lasting transformational change, I think it requires you to be consistent and stick with the plan when things get tough. This doesn't mean we shouldn't course correct along the way, but the destination kind of needs to be held onto and precious. And I think the most important thing, as we reflect as a leadership team, it really starts with us as leaders. What we say or do drives the work and behaviors below us in the organization. So, I would challenge all of us, and we've done a lot of this internally, to think about what we're prepared to give up as we make the shifts and shift our perspective. And maybe it's the level of granularity, the pursuit of perfection, whatever it may be. And then the most important piece behind that is how do we role model the behaviors we want to see from the team. So, for me, those are kind of the big kind of takeaways in terms of driving that transformation.
Wow. Good stuff. And I knew this would be awesome. So Jeremiah Ashukian, CFO of Mars Wrigley, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks to you, Tom. Yeah, it was great to spend some time with you, and happy to come back for another discussion if you want.
Yeah, we definitely will be following up as you keep moving down this journey. So I want to remind our audience that we're going to be at the CFO Leadership Council in Boston on May 19th through 20th. The hashtag for that is CFOLC. You can find it on LinkedIn or in Twitter. And I want you to join us. Other Future Ready Live sessions. We'll be back on LinkedIn the first and third Tuesday of each month at noon Eastern, and look for the hashtag Future Ready Live, or connect to me on LinkedIn and you'll get an automatic notice when we go live. So Jeremiah, thank you for being on our Future Finance Leadership Advisory Group, and thank you for being our guest today, and much luck in your transformation.
Thanks again.